People across Europe and the West are waking up to the fact that something profound is happening in our societies. Demographic change, cultural transformation, political pressure, and an ideology that's quietly reshaping communities from within. One of the most influential movements in this conversation, and one most people still misunderstand, is the Muslim Brotherhood. So tonight we're going to break down what the Muslim Brotherhood actually is, how it's funded, what its goals are, and then why some nations have banned it when the UK hasn't. So let's start at the beginning. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded in Egypt in 1928 by a school teacher named Hassan al-Banna. And from that very first moment, it was more than a mosque group or a charity. It was a political movement built around the idea that Islam is not just a private belief system, but a complete system of governance. So al-Banna believed that Islam should regulate every aspect of life: morality, education, law, civil life, public policy and political authority. This meant that the Brotherhood's goals were not limited to prayer or personal discipline. They wanted Islamic governance, Sharia law, and a society ordered by Islamic principles. This is the first piece of context most Westerners miss. In much of the Islamic world, there isn't a sharp line between religion and politics the way there is here in the West. For the Brotherhood, these lines simply do not exist, and that's foundational. So what does the movement look like today? Well, first, the Muslim Brotherhood is not a monolithic organisation with a single command centre, and there's no unified global headquarters, there's no single bank account with all the funding, and there's certainly no single CEO directing all of the different elements. Instead, it's a network, a constellation of affiliated groups operating in different countries, each adapted to the local conditions. Some are political parties, some are charities, some are educational organisations, some focus on community outreach, but the core ideology at the heart of this remains consistent: Islam as a comprehensive system for society and governance. Okay, so now let's talk about the funding. There's no publicly available global Muslim Brotherhood funding accounts or on the internet. There's no Companies House records. There's no central account you can scroll through. But we do know this: funding flows through local donors, charitable foundations, affiliate NGOs and sympathetic wealthy individuals in various countries, especially early in the 20th century from wealthy Gulf states. The network is deliberately decentralised, which makes tracing one big funding culprit impossible. And this decentralised funding model is strategic. It means that the Brotherhood can survive disruption, bans, pressure in one region, but then still be able to operate elsewhere. So that brings us on to the next question. Why is the Muslim Brotherhood banned in some countries? So several nations have taken the decision to outlaw the Brotherhood entirely. Examples include Egypt. So after the overthrow of President Morsi, who was a Brotherhood member, the government labelled the organisation a terrorist group and banned it. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they saw the Brotherhood and its political Islam as destabilising because it challenges the monarchy in those countries, or their centralised authority. And then it's the same with Russia. So they officially listed it as an extremist organisation because it was seen as a threat to the constitutional order. So these bans are political as much as for security decisions. In each case, the government's rationale was that the Brotherhood's ideology, which is organised political Islam, was seen as a threat to the existing state structure. And this is the key distinction. The Brotherhood is not universally banned around the world because everyone agrees it's a terrorist organisation. No, some countries ban it because its political ideology conflicts with the state's interests. Others tolerate it because its ideology does not automatically translate into violence. So what about the UK? Why isn't the Muslim Brotherhood banned here? So in the UK, terrorism laws focus on violent acts, plotting and support for terrorism. You can't ban an ideology. You can only ban organisations that are legally proved to support, plan or fund terrorist atrocities. So the Brotherhood in the UK does not, as an organisation, appear on the list of banned terrorist organisations under UK law. And the reason for that is because as a decentralised global network, it hasn't met the legal threshold that would make prescription possible in the UK courts. So that doesn't mean that the Brotherhood faces no scrutiny, because Britain's security services and certainly in Parliament, they've debated their presence, influence and associations. And there are some serious concerns in some circles about parts of the network and how they operate and how that could be problematic. But from a legal perspective, under British law, what makes something prescribable is whether it's actively involved in terrorism, not whether its ideology is controversial. So let's talk about the accusation that the Brotherhood has links to communism. Here's the reality. Communism and the Muslim Brotherhood are not the same ideology, because communism rejects religion and the Muslim Brotherhood places religion at the centre of public life. So at a theological level, they are absolute opposites. But at a strategic level in the 20th century, there were moments when both movements have been aligned tactically against colonial powers or, shared enemies. And these were temporary alliances of convenience, not necessarily a sign of doctrinal unity. In other words, they're not brothers in belief, just occasional partners in specific political battles. So why does any of this matter in Europe? Because whether you like the Muslim Brotherhood or not, whether you agree with its vision or not, its ideology has shaped political Islam globally. Its strategy of political participation, community influence and legal activism has influenced movements across the Middle East and beyond. And parts of that network operate in Europe under civil society banners, charities, student groups, community organisations, all with ideological roots that trace back through to the Brotherhood's thought. And here's the key point. The West struggles to categorise this movement because it doesn't fit the categories Western security establishment has been designed to deal with. It's not an Al-Qaeda or an ISIS type organisation. It's not a violent insurgency. It's a long-term political and social movement, less about bombs and more about ideas, organising and legal participation in society. If Europe wants to understand its own future, it needs to understand that. Some movements operate through violence, some movements operate through politics, and some ideas operate through ideas and institutions, and we heard about this the other day when I talked about the Fabian Society. The Muslim Brotherhood belongs in the third category, which is the ideas and institutions, much like the Fabian Society, which we talked about. And the West has not yet figured out how to deal with either. And so this really is where we're at. It's not been prescribed as a terrorist organisation, so it still operates in the UK, despite being banned in different and many other countries around the world. It clearly has ideological links that can be compatible with the Marxism that we're seeing on a rise across the West. And so these two strange bedfellows can end up creating a whole world of pain for many people. And it will only be a temporary partnership, and we've already seen this in the Iranian Revolution, where the communists and the Islamists joined together, and then as soon as the Islamists took power, all of the communists were removed. So, could it happen again? It's quite possible. Let me know your thoughts.